Ambassador Kyle Harrison stood in chains before the Galactic Council chambers on the Xanthari homeworld, watching 47 different alien species stare at him with what he could only describe as contempt mixed with disbelief. The massive chamber stretched upward for hundreds of meters, its walls covered in crystalline displays, showing the assembled representatives from across known space. 3 months had passed since the incident on New Vancouver, a small human colony on the frontier where 300 Krivas warriors had died in a confrontation that lasted less than an hour. The insectoid Krivas claimed the planet as ancestral territory and demanded immediate surrender of the settlement. But the colonists refused and defended their homes with a ferocity that shocked the warrior caste that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. Council Prime Executor Vexter, a towering reptilian creature whose scales shifted colors with his emotions, gestured toward Kyle with one clawed hand. His voice boomed through translation devices that made his words understandable to all species present. The humans have committed an act of unprecedented aggression against the Krivas hive, killing 300 warriors without provocation or justification. Kyle wanted to laugh at the absurdity of the charge, knowing full well that the Krivas had attacked first, demanding the colonists abandon their homes and farms that they had built over 15 years of hard work. But he remained silent, understanding that nothing he said would change what was about to happen. In 10,000 years of galactic peace, no species has dared to resist when the Council has spoken. Vexter continued, his scales darkening to an angry purple. Humanity, barely 80 years into space travel, believes it can defy traditions older than your entire civilization, one by one. The representatives of the 47 species cast their votes on the resolution before them. The Arxian Collective, a peaceful species of scholars, abstained from voting but did not oppose. Every other species voted the same way. Complete extermination of humanity as an example to any future upstart civilizations that might challenge. Galactic Order. Kyle felt his heart sink as the final tally appeared on the displays. He thought of Earth, of the 8 billion people who had no idea what was coming, of the children playing in parks and the families gathering for dinner, all unaware that the galaxy had just sentenced them to death. You have 24 hours to transmit this decree to your homeworld, Vexter announced. Earth and all human colonies must surrender all weapons and submit to extermination protocols within one standard galactic week. Back on Earth, Admiral Christopher Hayes received the transmission aboard Unity 1, the orbital defense station that served as headquarters for the United Earth Defense Force. He read the decree 3 times, each reading making the reality more horrifying and more clear. Commander Lisa Patterson entered his office carrying a data tablet, her face pale. Sir, our intelligence network has intercepted communications from Threshold Station, she said, her voice barely steady. They are assembling an invasion fleet. How many ships? Hayes asked, though part of him did not want to know the answer. 9,700 warships from 47 different species. Lisa replied, it is the largest military force ever assembled in recorded galactic history, and they will arrive at Earth in 6 days. Hayes looked out the viewport at the blue and white sphere of Earth below. The United Earth Defense Force had 23 warships, most of them converted mining vessels and experimental craft that had never seen real combat. Against nearly 10,000 enemy ships, they had no chance of victory in any conventional sense. President Daniel Morrison addressed the planet that evening, his voice carried to every screen and speaker across Earth. My fellow humans, I will not lie to you about what we face, he began. The galaxy has declared that we must die, that our refusal to surrender our colony was an unforgivable crime, that our very existence is a threat to their ancient order. Panic spread like wildfire across the continents. People rioted in some cities, while others gathered in churches and temples to pray. Families held each other close, wondering if they would see another sunrise. But humanity also began to prepare. Commander Brandon Tucker organized the evacuation of children and non-combatants to Mars and Titan colonies, knowing it might only delay the inevitable, but hoping it would save some. Every defensive satellite was armed. Every mining laser was repurposed as a weapon. Every civilian spacecraft that could mount a gun was volunteered. By its crew, Admiral Hayes made his decision after consulting with Earth's military commanders. They would not surrender, would not flee, and would not beg for mercy that would never come. If humanity was going to die, they would make the galaxy remember why leaving Earth alone would have been the wiser choice. 6 days passed in a blur of preparation and farewell. Couples married in rushed ceremonies. Parents recorded final messages for their children in the evacuation ships. And soldiers who had never expected to fight a real war checked and rechecked their equipment with hands that trembled despite their determination. Commander Megan Foster stood on the bridge of the destroyer Defiant when the invasion fleet arrived. The sensors lit up with thousands of contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. So many that the display could barely render them all as individual points. The alien fleet broadcast its message in cold, formal language. Humanity has 1 hour to surrender all weapons and submit to immediate extermination protocols. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your homeworld and all colonies. Admiral Hayes sat in his command chair aboard Unity 1, surrounded by officers who looked to him for guidance. He thought about everything humanity had built, from the first cave paintings to the cities that now covered Earth, from the Wright brothers to the colony ships, from tribal warfare to a united planetary government. He opened a channel to the invasion fleet and spoke words that would echo through galactic history. This is Admiral Christopher Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force. Your demand for surrender is denied. If you want our world, come and take it. The response from the alien fleet came quickly. Your defiance is noted and will be punished accordingly. We are now advancing to Earth orbit to begin extermination operations. Kyle Harrison, still imprisoned on the Xanthari homeworld, heard about Earth's response and smiled despite the guards who struck him for his insolence. He knew his people well enough to understand what was about to happen. The galaxy thought it was teaching humanity a lesson about power and submission. What the galaxy did not understand was that humanity had spent its entire existence learning how to survive against impossible odds, how to fight when fighting seemed futile, and how to make predators regret choosing them as prey. Earth had made humanity into something the peaceful galaxy had forgotten could exist. The invasion fleet advanced in perfect formation, confident and methodical. 9,700 warships moved toward Earth like an unstoppable tide. Aboard those ships, commanders expected this to be a routine operation. Just another primitive species being eliminated for the sake of galactic order. They had no idea they were about to face a species that called a death world home. A species that had fought and clawed its way to the top of the most hostile environment in known space. They had no idea that of those 9,700 ships, only 18 would ever see home again. The galactic fleet moved through space like a swarm of locusts, their formation perfect and precise as they advanced toward the inner solar system. Captain Eric Davis watched from his reconnaissance ship positioned near Jupiter orbit, counting the vessels that appeared on his sensors and feeling his stomach twist with each new contact. The Xanthari capital ships led to formation, each one the size of a small city and bristling with enough firepower to crack a moon. Behind them came the Krivas swarm vessels, organic ships that looked like massive insects floating through the void. Dozens of other species contributed their warships, creating a force that represented the combined military might of nearly half the known galaxy. What struck Eric most was how casual they seemed. The alien fleet maintained communication channels that his ship could intercept, and the commanders talked, as if this were a routine cleanup operation rather than an invasion. They discussed arrival times and bombardment patterns, the way workers might discuss a scheduled demolition. "They are not even worried about us," Lieutenant Karen Phillips said from the sensor station. "Their tactical computers are running simulations that assume we will either surrender or die quickly." Eric nodded grimly. The galaxy had fought no real wars in thousands of years, relying instead on overwhelming force to convince primitive species to submit. They expected humanity to follow the same pattern that every other species had followed when faced with council authority. What the galaxy did not know was that humanity came from a world that killed without mercy or hesitation. Earth's gravity was 3 times the galactic standard, crushing pressure that would cripple most alien species. Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere was corrosive to ships designed for methane or nitrogen environments. Earth's weather systems were violent storms that could tear aircraft from the sky. More than that, humanity had spent its entire evolutionary history learning to hunt, to fight, and to survive against predators faster and stronger than any individual human. Cooperation and tool use were not choices for humanity, but necessities born from being the weakest ape that somehow dominated an entire planet. The invasion fleet reached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, expecting to pass through without incident. They had no reason to suspect that humanity had spent the last 6 days turning every mining station and ore processor into a weapons platform. Admiral Hayes gave the signal from Unity 1. "All units, commence Operation Hammer." The asteroid belt exploded with activity. Thousands of tungsten rods, each one accelerated to a fraction of light speed by electromagnetic launchers, streaked toward the alien formation. The Zentari shields flared as they intercepted the first wave. Energy barriers designed to stop laser and plasma weapons, but kinetic weapons were different. The tungsten rods carried momentum that shields could deflect but not stop entirely. And when dozens struck the same shield simultaneously, the math became simple and brutal. Shields collapsed, rods punched through hulls, and ships began to die. The first Centauri capital ship to fall took 12 direct hits before its reactor went critical. The explosion lit up space like a second sun, vaporizing 2 nearby escort vessels and damaging a dozen more. Within 30 seconds of the first shot, the alien fleet had lost 200 ships. Chaos erupted across the invasion force communication channels. Commanders shouted conflicting orders. Ships broke formation trying to evade the continuing barrage. And species that had never experienced real combat froze in confusion and panic. Commander Ashley Rodriguez led a squadron of human attack craft from their hiding positions among the asteroids. The small ships accelerated hard, their crews enduring crushing G-forces that would have killed most galactic species, but which humans had trained to withstand. "Target the command ships," Ashley ordered. "Ignore the fighters and focus on anything broadcasting coordination signals." The human craft moved like predators, using the debris field for cover and striking from unexpected angles. A Krivis command vessel, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescent communication nodes, died when 3 missiles penetrated its command center. The loss of coordination left an entire battle group of Krivis ships vulnerable. Captain Justin Hall saw the opening and took it. His squadron had been positioned on the opposite side of the fleet, waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. "All ships, attack pattern Delta 7, he transmitted. "Hit them while they are confused." The ambush was brutal and efficient. Human ships fired their weapons and disappeared back into the asteroid field before the aliens could respond effectively. The galaxy had forgotten that the simplest tactics were sometimes the most deadly when executed by warriors who understood that survival meant taking every possible advantage 8 hours into the battle. The galactic fleet had lost 1,200 warships and had yet to reach Mars orbit. Admiral Hayes watched the casualty reports with satisfaction mixed with dread. Humanity was winning individual engagements, but losing ships. They could not replace Commander Nicole Stevens, monitored the intercepted alien communications from the intelligence vessel Shadow. "Sir, several species are requesting permission to withdraw," she reported. "The Oxian vessels have already begun moving away from the main formation. What is the Xanthari response?" Hayes asked. "High Command is ordering the fleet to press forward regardless of casualties," Nicole replied. "Vexter himself is transmitting from the Xanthari homeworld, saying that retreat would show weakness and encourage future resistance." Hayes understood the calculation. The galaxy had committed to making an example of humanity, and backing down now would undermine Council authority across known space. They would pay any price to avoid admitting they had made a mistake, but the price was about to become catastrophic. Commander Lisa Patterson had finished analyzing the alien fleet composition and discovered a critical weakness. "Admiral, the supply ships are positioned in the rear formation with minimal escort," she said. "If we can destroy their fuel and ammunition reserves, the fleet will be forced to withdraw." Hayes smiled coldly. Launch Operation Stranglehold. Human submarines had been a dominant force in Earth's oceans for centuries, hunting enemy vessels in three-dimensional space, where traditional surface tactics failed. The same principles applied in space combat, and humanity had learned them through bitter experience in 2 world wars and countless smaller conflicts. 6 human destroyers, led by Commander Tyler Bennett, circled wide around the main battle zone and approached the alien supply formation from below the plane of battle. The civilian freighters that had been conscripted to carry fuel and ammunition for the invasion fleet barely had defensive weapons. "Fire when ready," Tyler ordered quietly. The attack was over in minutes. Missile strikes and laser fire tore through thin hulls, igniting fuel reserves and detonating ammunition stockpiles. Secondary explosions rippled through the supply formation like dominoes falling, each blast triggering more destruction. 1,400 supply vessels died before the aliens realized what was happening. The loss of fuel and ammunition meant that every ship in the invasion fleet now had limited combat capability. Unable to replenish what they expended in battle, the galactic commanders finally understood. They were not fighting a simple extermination operation. They were fighting a war against an enemy that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing efficiently and without mercy. Species that had joined the invasion, expecting easy glory, began transmitting withdrawal notices. 17 different governments simultaneously announced they were recalling their forces, unwilling to accept further casualties for what they now saw as the Council's mistake. The Xanthari and Krivas refused to retreat, their pride demanding that they finish what they started. But their fleet was now reduced to fewer than 7,000 ships, many damaged and running low on supplies. Admiral Hayes saw his moment. "All units, general offensive," he ordered. "Every ship, every platform, every weapon we have left." The human forces surged forward like wolves who had finally brought down a massive prey. They were battered and bleeding, having lost 15 of their 23 warships. But they had broken the back of the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. Captain Eric Davis, his reconnaissance ship now retrofitted with salvaged alien weapons, led the charge toward the retreating enemy. Humanity would not simply survive this day. They would teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The Xanthari fleet reached Earth orbit with 8,500 ships remaining, still enough firepower to crack continents and boil oceans. High Command had ordered total planetary bombardment to begin at dawn, wanting humanity to see the sun rise one final time before extermination. Admiral Hayes pulled every remaining human vessel back to low Earth orbit, where the gravity well and atmospheric density would interfere with alien ship maneuverability. Captain Andrew Martin coordinated the defense from the carrier Independence. one of only 8 human warships, still combat-capable after the running battles through the solar system. All civilian vessels are to take shelter on the far side of the moon. Hayes ordered. Military units will hold position at the atmospheric boundary. Commander Stephanie Walsh watched the alien fleet begin its descent from her position aboard the engineering support ship, Forge. She had spent the last 12 hours coordinating with civilian engineers and military technicians, turning every piece of equipment into potential weapons. The Centauri capital ships entered the upper atmosphere first, their massive bulk designed to inspire terror in primitive species looking up from their doomed world. But within minutes of atmospheric entry, problems began manifesting across their systems. The oxygen-rich air that made Earth habitable for humans was highly corrosive to Centauri, hull materials designed for methane atmospheres. Chemical reactions began eating through external sensors and communication arrays, forcing ships to rely on backup systems that were never meant for primary use. The Krivis bioships suffered even worse. Their organic hulls had evolved in stable, predictable environments where atmospheric composition rarely changed. Earth's weather systems, with their violent temperature swings and pressure differentials, stressed biological systems beyond tolerance levels. A massive storm system over the Pacific Ocean caught 3 Krivis vessels in downdrafts that pulled them deeper into atmosphere than their pilots intended. The crushing pressure and turbulence tore wings from bodies, and all 3 ships fell burning into the ocean below. The planet itself is fighting them, Commander Lisa Patterson observed from Unity 1. Their technology is optimized for gentle worlds with stable conditions. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper, manning the tactical station, grinned savagely. They wanted to invade a death world without understanding what that means. The human defenders struck while the alien fleet struggled with Earth's hostile environment. Every defensive satellite still functional fired missiles and laser beams at ships, whose sensors could not track properly through atmospheric interference. Ground-based railguns launched projectiles that punched through shields, weakened by energy drain from gravitational stress. Commander Ashley Rodriguez led her attack squadron in low-altitude strikes, using Earth's magnetic field to mask their approach. The magnetic field that protected Earth from solar radiation played havoc with Krivis navigational systems, making their targeting computers unreliable. Hit them where their shields are weakest, Ashley transmitted. Atmospheric entry has stressed their defensive systems. The human pilots fought with a desperation born from protecting their homeworld. They took risks that no sane galactic pilot would consider, diving through storm clouds and skimming mountain peaks to line up impossible shots. 2 pilots deliberately rammed enemy ships when their weapons ran dry, choosing death over surrender aboard the Forge. Stephanie Walsh activated her most controversial weapon. Biological warfare had been banned across galactic space for 6,000 years, considered too horrific for civilized species to employ. But humanity had not agreed to those treaties, and Earth's biosphere was uniquely suited to aggressive biological agents. Disabled Centauri ships floating in low orbit suddenly found their environmental systems invaded by Earth bacteria. The microorganisms had evolved to survive in extreme conditions, adapting to temperatures from Arctic ice to volcanic vents, thriving in acidic mine runoff and radioactive waste sites. The aliens had no immune response to organisms they had never encountered. Infections spread through ship crews faster than medical systems could respond. Within hours, dozens of Centauri vessels went dark as their crews died or became too sick to function. The Krivis, being an insect-based hive species, proved somewhat more resistant to Earth bacteria, but faced a different nightmare. Fungal spores that had evolved alongside Earth's insects found the bioships to be perfect hosts. Decay spread through living hulls like cancer, weakening structural integrity until ships broke apart from stress-high command aboard the Centauri flagship. Dominion watched their fleet disintegrate in real time. 3 days into the battle for Earth, they had lost 4,000 more ships to a combination of human attacks, environmental damage, and biological warfare. "This is impossible," Vexter hissed, his scales shifting through colors that indicated confusion and rage. "No primitive species should possess such weapons or tactics." His tactical officer, a younger Xanthari named Kekstar, studied the displays with growing horror. "Commander, the humans are not fighting like a primitive species," he said carefully. "They are fighting like a species that has spent its entire existence learning to survive against superior predators." "Silence!" Vexter roared. "We will not be defeated by creatures who only entered space 80 years ago." But the fleet was already breaking. 17 more species announced withdrawal from the invasion, their commanders unwilling to watch their crews die from infections and environmental stress. The coalition, that had numbered 47 species, now counted fewer than 15 still willing to fight Commander Tyler Bennett. His destroyer Valiant, crippled and venting atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches, saw one final opportunity. The Xanthari flagship Dominion had descended to medium orbit to better coordinate the remaining fleet, bringing it within range of Earth's most powerful weapon. "This is Valiant to Unity 1, Tyler transmitted, requesting permission for final attack run on enemy flagship. Admiral Hayes knew what Tyler was suggesting. "Permission denied, Commander. Your ship is too damaged to survive the approach." "Respectfully, sir, my ship is too damaged to survive anyway," Tyler replied. "Let me make it count." There was a long silence before Hayes responded. "Permission granted." "Make humanity proud." The Valiant turned toward the Dominion, its failing engines pushed beyond safe limits. Xanthari defensive fire tore through weakened shields. But Tyler's crew kept the ship on course through force of will and desperation. At the last moment, Tyler activated the Valiant's self-destruct and rammed the flagship at full speed. The combined explosion of the ship's reactor and the impact tore a massive hole in the Dominion side, venting atmosphere and killing hundreds of crew members, including Vexter himself. The death of the Xanthari High Commander broke what remained of alien morale. Kekstar, suddenly in command of a dying fleet, made the decision his predecessor should have made days ago. "All Xanthari vessels, begin withdrawal to faster-than-light distance," he ordered. "This invasion has failed." The Krivis Hive Queen, communicating from her massive bioship, watched the Xanthari retreat and understood the reality. Humanity had won not through superior technology, but through superior will. They had turned their hostile homeworld into a weapon and fought with creativity born from desperate necessity. "Humanity of Earth," she transmitted on open channels. "The Krivis Hive requests terms of cessation. Captain Michelle Taylor, designated as humanity's negotiator after surviving the destruction of her ship, responded from a rescue pod. Immediate withdrawal of all forces from human space. Return of any prisoners. Free passage for human vessels through all galactic territories." Those are our terms. For the first time in Krivis history, the Hive Queen accepted terms from a species they had considered prey. "Your terms are acceptable." Within hours, the remaining alien species followed suit. Ships that had come to exterminate humanity now fled in disarray, desperate to escape the death world that had killed so many of their comrades. Commander Brandon Phillips compiled the final casualty count as the last alien vessels jumped to faster-than-light travel. Of the 9,700 warships that had arrived to eliminate humanity, only 18 would make it home. The rest were debris floating through space or radioactive craters scattered across the solar system. The United Earth Defense Force had lost 19 of its 23 warships and suffered 40,000 military casualties. But Earth still stood, its cities scarred but intact, its people alive and free. Admiral Hayes looked down at the planet from Unity 1 and felt tears running down his face. Humanity had survived, but the cost had been terrible. Now they would have to face whatever came next. The alien fleet limped toward the edge of the solar system, damaged ships struggling to reach the distance needed for faster-than-light travel. They thought the nightmare was over, that humanity would let them leave in peace after such devastating losses. They were wrong. Captain Kevin Richards led 12 human pursuit squadrons that had been held in reserve for exactly this moment. His orders from Admiral Hayes were clear. Make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you threaten Earth. All ships, weapons free, Kevin transmitted. Target engines and communication arrays. Leave them alive but stranded. The pursuit squadrons hit the fleeing aliens like sharks following blood in water. Missiles disabled propulsion systems. Laser fire destroyed faster-than-light drives. And electromagnetic pulse weapons fried communication equipment. Ships that had survived the battle for Earth found themselves drifting helplessly in the outer solar system. Commander Amanda Brooks commanded a wolf pack of 3 light cruisers hunting supply vessels that had stayed outside combat range. They wanted to exterminate us, she said coldly. Now they get to experience what being hunted feels like. Her crews were efficient and merciless. Supply ships carrying food, medicine, and repair equipment for the journey home became expanding clouds of debris. Escape pods launched from dying vessels were left untouched, but their occupants would drift for days or weeks before rescue arrived. Lieutenant Samantha Harris coordinated defensive positions throughout the Kuiper Belt, the remote region of ice and rock beyond Neptune's orbit. Human engineers had spent decades placing weapon platforms and sensor arrays in the belt, ostensibly for scientific research, but actually as a final line of defense when the largest concentration of alien forces attempted to regroup in the Kuiper Belt for one final push toward Earth. They walked into humanity's most devastating trap. 6,000 enemy warships entered the zone thinking they were safe from pursuit. Execute Operation Overkill. Samantha ordered with grim satisfaction, directed nuclear explosions, created massive radiation storms that overwhelmed alien shielding. Kinetic kill vehicles launched from hidden platforms, shredded formations with tungsten penetrators traveling at relativistic speeds. Gravitational mines, experimental weapons that had never been combat tested, tore ships from faster-than-light travel and left them tumbling through normal space. The massacre lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 3,000 alien warships had become debris fields scattered across billions of kilometers. The survivors were too damaged and disorganized to pose any threat aboard the Zentari vessel Retribution. Commander Kekstar watched his fleet die and finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. Humanity had not simply defended their world. They had turned the entire solar system into a killing ground designed to bleed any invader white. How did we miss this? His tactical officer asked quietly. How did our intelligence fail so completely? Kekstar had been studying human history since the battle began, trying to understand how such a primitive species had defeated the combined might of the galaxy. They did not miss anything, he replied. We simply refused to believe that any species could be this dangerous. The reports had all been there. Humanity's history of warfare spanning thousands of years. Their rapid technological advancement driven by competition and conflict. Their tendency to turn any tool into a weapon when threatened. But the Council had dismissed these warnings as exaggerations from frightened observers. Now, the price of that arrogance was 3,000 more ships added to the casualty count. Kekstar made a decision that would cost him his rank but might save what remained of his fleet. All Zentari vessels. This is Commander Kekstar. He transmitted on open channels. I am formally requesting terms of surrender from the United Earth Defense Force. The words felt like acid in his mouth, but he forced them out. Pride had already cost them everything. Surrendering might at least save lives. Captain Michelle Taylor, recovered from her escape pod and now aboard the human destroyer Defiant, received the surrender request with surprise. This is Captain Taylor. State your terms. We request safe passage to faster-than-light distance and medical assistance for our wounded. Kekstar replied. In exchange, we offer complete intelligence on Council military capabilities, technology databases, and star charts showing all known species territories. Admiral Hayes, listening to the exchange from Unity 1, considered the offer carefully. Continuing the pursuit would eliminate more enemy ships but would cost human lives and resources that Earth could not spare. Accepting the surrender would give humanity invaluable intelligence for whatever came next. Offer accepted. Hayes transmitted. All human vessels, cease fire on Zentari ships. Medical teams prepare to receive wounded. The decision shocked many human commanders who wanted revenge for the 40,000 dead and 19 lost warships. But Hayes understood that winning the war was more important than winning every battle. The Krivas Hive Queen, watching the Zentari surrender, made her own calculation. The Hive had lost 2,000 ships and countless warriors. Continuing resistance would only add to the casualties. Her bioship, the Nest of Eternal Twilight, transmitted to Admiral Hayes. The Krivas Hive acknowledges defeat. We request permission to recover our dead and wounded before departing your solar system. Permission granted. Hayes replied. But know this, if any Krivas vessel ever threatens a human colony again, we will hunt your species to extinction. The Hive Queen understood the threat was not empty rhetoric. Humanity had proven they possessed both the capability and the will to follow through. The Hive acknowledges and accepts your terms. Over the next 3 days, human medical teams worked alongside alien survivors to treat the wounded and recover the dead. The irony was not lost on anyone that the species who had come to exterminate humanity were now being saved by human. Compassion Commander Stephanie Walsh led the medical effort from the hospital ship Mercy. Why are we helping them? A young medic asked. They came here to kill us all. Stephanie looked at the alien wounded being carried aboard, beings who had never expected to receive mercy from their intended victims. Because this is who we are, she replied. We fight when we must, but we do not become monsters even when facing monsters. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper compiled the final casualty report as the last alien vessels prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. Of the 9,700 warships that had invaded the solar system, only 18 would make it home intact. Another 300 ships limped away too damaged to fight but capable of travel. The rest were gone, destroyed in battle or scuttled after suffering catastrophic damage. The human cost had been terrible but survivable. 19 warships lost, 40,000 military casualties, 3 orbital stations destroyed, and damage to civilian infrastructure that would take years to repair. But Earth lived, humanity survived, and the galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating the species from the Death World, Commander Kekstar. His ship finally repaired enough for faster-than-light travel. Transmitted one final message to Earth. Admiral Hayes. My species has learned a lesson written in the blood of thousands. Humanity is not prey to be hunted or a problem to be eliminated. You are warriors who fight with honor, even against those who showed you none. Hayes appreciated the sentiment but knew the real work was just beginning. The galactic power structure had been shattered, the Council's authority was broken, and humanity now faced a galaxy that would view them with fear and resentment. Safe journey, Commander Kekstar, Hayes replied. Tell your people what happened here. Make sure the galaxy remembers. The last alien vessels vanished in the faster-than-light travel, leaving Earth's solar system quiet for the first time in weeks. Humanity had won a victory that would echo through galactic history, but the question remained, what would they do with that victory? 3 months after the battle, Ambassador Kyle Harrison walked free through the Galactic Council chambers, no longer in chains, but wearing the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. The massive hall that once held 47 species now echoed with emptiness. Barely a dozen representatives remaining to witness his return. 23 species had withdrawn from the council entirely. Their governments collapsed under the weight of catastrophic military losses and public outrage over the attempted genocide. The remaining species sat in stunned silence as Kyle presented Earth's demands for formal recognition of human sovereignty and reparations for the unprovoked. Invasion Council Prime Executor Vexter was dead, killed when Commander Tyler Bennett rammed the flagship Dominion. His replacement, a cautious Anthari administrator named Felden, listened to Kyle's speech with the resignation of someone who knew they had no leverage to negotiate. The species of Earth demand full membership in the Galactic Council, with veto power over any future military actions, Kyle stated. We demand access to all trade routes and technology exchanges without restriction. We demand reparations sufficient to rebuild our damaged infrastructure. And we demand that the truth about the manufactured incident on New Vancouver be made public across all galactic networks. Felden's scale shifted to colors indicating acceptance and shame. The Council acknowledges all demands and will comply fully. The admission sent shockwaves through what remained of galactic civilization. Commander Lisa Patterson's intelligence division had released a complete analysis of the New Vancouver incident, proving that the Krivas had deliberately killed their own warriors to create justification for eliminating a potential rival species. The revelation destroyed what little remained of the Council's moral authority. Species that had prided themselves on enlightenment and peaceful coexistence had to face the reality that they had participated in attempted genocide based on manufactured evidence back on Earth. President Daniel Morrison addressed both his planet and the wider galaxy in a speech that would define humanity's future. 3 months ago, 9,700 warships came to our solar system with orders to exterminate every man, woman, and child among our species, he began. The galaxy believed we would surrender or die quickly, like every other primitive species, faced with overwhelming force. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. They were wrong. Earth is a harsh world that kills without mercy, and we are the species that survived by learning to fight back. Our atmosphere would poison most galactic species. Our gravity would crush them. Our weather would tear their ships from the sky. But we call this hostile place home because we adapted, we persevered, and we refused to let any challenge defeat us across the solar system. Humans listened to their president's words with pride, mixed with grief for the 40,000 who had died defending their world. Memorial services had been held on every continent, honoring those who gave their lives so humanity could remain free. But I want to be clear about who we are and who we will become. Morrison continued. We did not ask for this war. We wanted only to be left alone to build our colonies and explore the stars in peace. When the galaxy came for us, we defended ourselves with everything we had, and we showed no mercy to those who showed us none. He looked directly into the camera, knowing his words would reach every species monitoring Earth's broadcasts. However, we will not become the monsters we defeated. We will not seek revenge against those who attacked us. We will not build an empire on the graves of our enemies. Earth has seen enough empires rise and fall to know that path leads only to eventual destruction. The speech resonated across the galaxy, where species fearful of human retaliation felt tentative relief. But Morrison was not finished. Instead, humanity will serve as protectors for those who cannot protect themselves, he declared. We will teach those willing to learn that peaceful coexistence requires mutual respect, not enforced submission. We will prove that strength and compassion are not contradictory, but complementary. Admiral Christopher Hayes, promoted to Supreme Commander of United Earth Forces, stood beside Morrison as the President concluded his address. Hayes had spent the last 3 months rebuilding Earth's military from captured alien technology and salvaged materials. The new Terran defense fleet numbered 40 warships, each one incorporating lessons learned from the invasion. Not all species viewed humanity with fear or resentment. The Arxian Collective, the peaceful scholars who had refused to participate in the invasion, extended formal diplomatic friendship. Their ambassador, Scholar Velen, arrived on Earth 1 month after the battle with a proposal that would reshape galactic politics. Humanity has proven that the Council's model of enforced peace through overwhelming force is fundamentally flawed. Velen explained to President Morrison during their first meeting. The Arxian Collective proposes a mutual defense treaty between our species. Together, we can build an alliance based on voluntary cooperation rather than coerced submission, Morrison agreed. And within weeks, the Terran Coalition was born. 7 smaller species, liberated from Krivus domination by humanity's victory, requested membership. They had been terrorized for generations by the warrior caste that now lay broken and humbled Captain Michelle Taylor, appointed as humanity's chief ambassador to the coalition, worked tirelessly to establish protocols and agreements. "We must be careful," she warned Morrison. "If we are not cautious, we will become exactly what we fought against, a dominant power imposing our will on weaker species." Morrison understood her concern. "That is why we established the coalition on principles of equality. Every species has 1 vote regardless of military power. Earth does not rule, but participates." The galaxy watched humanity's actions with confusion. They had expected conquest or, at minimum, demands for tribute and submission. Instead, humans offered partnership to species they could have easily dominated. Commander Kekstar, now serving as the Zentari ambassador to Earth, met with Admiral Hayes 6 months after the invasion. "My species does not understand you," he admitted. "You defeated us utterly, killed thousands of our warriors, humiliated our military. Yet when we surrendered, you gave us medical care and safe passage. When we requested trade agreements, you negotiated as equals rather than conquerors." Hayes smiled grimly. "Humanity has learned through bitter experience that revenge feels satisfying in the moment but solves nothing in the long term. We fought 2 world wars that killed millions before we finally understood that lasting peace requires former enemies to become friends. The galaxy has forgotten how to fight," Kekstar observed. "Your victory has reminded them that violence still exists in the universe." "Good," Hayes replied. "Fear of violence keeps the peace better than enforced submission ever did. Now species will think carefully before attacking others, because they can no longer rely on the Council to protect them from consequences." The conversation was interrupted by urgent reports from the frontier. Captain Eric Davis, leading the newly formed Terran Expeditionary Fleet, had encountered a pirate fleet attacking civilian shipping in territory. The Council no longer patrolled. The 40 warships of the Expeditionary Fleet engaged the pirates with efficiency. That shocked galactic observers. The battle lasted 18 minutes and ended with every pirate vessel either destroyed or captured. The freed civilian ships, representing a dozen different species, transmitted thanks to the human force that had saved them. "This is what we will be," Hayes said to Kekstar as they watched the battle reports. "Not conquerors, not empire builders, but the force that protects those who cannot protect themselves." The galaxy wanted to make an example of humanity. "Instead, we will make an example of ourselves," Commander Brandon Phillips compiled a comprehensive report on the invasion and its aftermath for Earth's historical archives. Of the 9,700 warships that came to exterminate humanity, only 18 made it home intact. The number became a symbol across the galaxy. A reminder of the cost of arrogance and the danger of underestimating those who call harsh worlds home. The Krivus Hive Queen, humbled by defeat, sent a formal apology to Earth and requested permission to establish diplomatic relations. Humanity agreed, understanding that former enemies could become the most valuable allies if given the chance. 1 year after the invasion, Ambassador Kyle Harrison stood again in the Galactic Council chambers, but this time representing the Terran coalition of 12 species. "The Council's era of enforced peace is over," he declared. "In its place, we offer voluntary cooperation between equals. Join us or go your own way, but understand that aggression against any coalition member will be met with the full force of our combined fleets." The reformed council, reduced to 20 species and stripped of its military authority, had no choice but to accept the new reality. Humanity and its allies now represented the dominant power block in known space, not through conquest, but through demonstrated capability and moral authority. President Morrison, in his final address before retiring from office, reflected on humanity's journey from primitive species to galactic power. "We did not ask to be thrust into this role," he said. "We wanted only peace and the freedom to chart our own course among the stars. But when the galaxy came for us, we showed them what humans are truly.